I'm your host, Scary Pops. Everybody loves a good scare. So let's get into it. The only child. She didn't hesitate dropping her 5-year-old from the bridge into the unforgiving rocks 80 feet below. She was perfect, so was her husband, and having a child that would be unwanted is just unacceptable. Her husband was devastated, while she did a lot of faking. But a year passed and she gave birth to another. But this time it was a beautiful baby girl. And he, the husband, was once again satisfied. And at last she was too. Then 5 years later passed. And she began a walk with her daughter along that same familiar bridge. Midway through, her daughter hugged her very tightly. "What's wrong, sweetie?" she asked. Her daughter replied with a whimper, "I'm scared, so scared. I love you, Mommy. I've always loved you." "Oh, I love you too, sweetheart. But what are you afraid of?" "I'm afraid you're going to drop me off this bridge again." Night whispers. Alexis had trouble sleeping at night. It wasn't because she shared the room with her sister, Angel, or even anxiety about going to school. It was because the last few nights she had a nightmare, a vivid one that felt way too real to be considered a dream. And in this dream, her mother's boyfriend, Desmond, would have her sister and mother tied up, threatening to kill them. A soft voice, like a whisper, would touch each corner of her mind with the words, "I'm going to kill you both." Alexis would be standing before her sister and mother, shaking, sweating, and Desmond would walk up to her with a large knife. "I'm going to kill you," came another whisper. When she woke up from the dream, she woke up in a cold sweat. The bedroom door would be open, as if Desmond had walked in while they were asleep. However, Alexis kept that to herself and didn't tell her sister. The next day after school, her mother was finally alone, and Desmond wasn't around. Her mother began to tell her about how Desmond wants to start a new life with her, and she's expecting another child. "What?" Alexis was shocked. Then she went to go tell her mom about the dream. And then her mom saw a spider on the kitchen counter scurrying behind the dish rack and went to kill it. And then when Alexis heard her mother say, "I'm going to kill you," it was just like the voice that she heard in her dream. She then realized it wasn't Desmond's voice she'd been hearing. It was her mother's.
I was driving through my city, delivering for Postmates way back in the day when it had basically just started. Every order was mostly inside the main city blocks, but I had just gotten an order from outside the main roads. I picked up the food and headed over, but the further out I got from the city, the more the roads became less populated, both of cars and of houses. Everything was replaced by the woods. I'd been out this way before, but only when leaving town. I didn't even know there were houses out here. I drove until the GPS told me to turn down a gravel road, which was almost unnoticeable. There were no lights aside from the dim ones coming from my old car as I made my way down this thin path through the woods. It was much longer than I expected, taking a whole minute to reach the house. To be honest, it was what I assumed it would look like due to its isolated location in the woods. It was aged and almost entirely made of wood, having vines growing up the outside of the house. There were a few lights on inside, shining through the windows, but if there hadn't been, then I probably would have thought twice about approaching it. I checked the bag for everything, then went up to the front door. I pressed the doorbell, which didn't really work, so I had to knock as well. As soon as my hand hit the door though, it creaked open. Cautiously, I opened it a little further and called out, "I have an order here from Postmates." A moment later, I called out again, "Anybody home?" There were no sounds coming from inside, but all of the lights I could see were on, and through the crack in the doorway, I could see a TV in the living room. It was playing, but was muted. I don't know how else to really explain my thoughts, but the vibes were just off, and I knew something was wrong about this. I turned and went back to my car, getting in and starting to do a U-turn. Right away, I felt a problem. The steering was stiff, and my car was struggling to move through the gravel, feeling extremely bumpy and jittery. I got out, and my face went cold when I saw that my front tire was flat. I then moved my eyes over to the other tires, and every one of them was flat as well. Not just a little deflated, but completely flattened. My stomach dropped, instantly knowing this was a purposeful act. In that moment, my mind was everywhere. What terrified me was that I didn't know whether someone put something on the path, or if someone had come up while I was at the house and done it behind my back. Either way, the only thing I knew was that someone was out here with me, way out in the woods, in the middle of nowhere. I got back inside my car and locked the doors, trying to call 911 but had no connection. As I ran through my few options, I saw a light in the house flicker, and the front door opened wider, revealing a man in the doorway. Without any hesitation, he started walking quickly over to my car. I didn't second guess myself this time, putting it in drive and forcing my car through the gravel. In the mirror, I saw the man stop and stare at my car. Once I was on the main road, I took it more carefully, driving slow to keep from damaging my car until I got enough signal to call 911. But what unfolded afterwards was equally as terrifying. That house was owned and lived in by a single mother with 2 kids, all of which said they were at the house sleeping in their rooms at the time I claim this happened at. They never ordered anything or saw any man or even found anything missing in their home. I don't know if they were in on it somehow, or if they were just as much a victim as I was. Why the man ordered food to the house and slashed my tires still doesn't make sense to me though. The only thing I've thought of is that maybe he was planning to do something horrible to that family, and I was going to be set up somehow to take the fall for it, due to my presence at the property at the exact time it would have been committed. It may be a stretch, but if that's true, then me getting away might have saved more lives than just my own.
Streamer named Rubsy captured paranormal activity live on his stream, and it's absolutely terrifying. Just imagine living alone and this happens to you. There's something about stuff like this that's just insanely creepy.
Dude, the light, you just turned it off and it went back on?